transformations, if you start with an x to the fourth power, it's going to have an x to the fourth power in the second one. It will never change exponents in between, okay? That's not something we're going to deal with. So let's just do a little sketch, right? We're not going to have to do all the numbers and get all the points like we did on the last one. Let's just do a little sketch here. Okay, here's my x-axis. Here's my y-axis. I'm going to draw my original in brown, okay? The x to the fourth power. Remember, it's positive. It going to look something kind of like this, with just a little w with a barely even a little hump in the front. Okay, that's my f of x. Right, and then my g of x I'm going to do in green. Okay, it reflects in the x-axis. Okay, so remember, if it reflects over the x-axis, it's going to flip downward. Okay, it's going to flip down over the x-axis. And vertical shrink, this is when people get kind of confused. Remember, vertical shrink is like if you're going vertical and you're smushing it down, shrinking it down. Okay, if you smush it, it's going to get fatter, right? So it's going to flip down and get fatter. It'll look something like this. Okay, it's going to get wider. Even though shrink makes it seem like it's going to get smaller, it's just getting wider and vertically smooshing it more towards the x-axis. Any questions? Input? Notice anything that you want to point out? Okay, let's do number 7 then. Okay, this one is f of x equals x to the 5th power. All right, so the original is x to the 5th power. G of x.
I can't see.
Thank you. Is parentheses negative 4x, close parentheses, to the 5th power. Yeah, it will always stay in the same family. If it's to the 5th power on the top, it'll be the 5th power on the bottom. All right, so same as I said before, the negative does one thing, the 4 does something else. Okay, but what's really important that I'm seeing here that I didn't see on number 6? Parentheses, right? That makes a big difference. Okay, so if it's parentheses with a negative inside, what's the difference on that one? First, the negative. Yes, you're right, whoever said horizontal, but first let's look at the negative. It's negative in front. What's the negative doing if it's inside the parentheses? So you can see. It reflects over x or y? Y, right? Negative with parentheses is over the y-axis. Okay, that means it's going to go from left to right. Okay, so that's reflect in the y. Right, and the 4 inside, okay, I heard some people saying it's horizontal. Okay, but if it's a whole number, it's horizontal shrink. Okay, it's the opposite. And we have to flip the fraction. Okay, horizontal is just weird like that. So it'll be a horizontal shrink by not 4, but by what? 1/4, right? 1/4 makes a fraction. Okay, so again, we're going to do a little sketch of this one. Similar to just the one that we just did. Okay, it's to the 5th power, so it'll look something like this. You can barely see the little lumps right there, okay? It looks a lot like a cubic function. Okay, it just barely has lumps in the middle. But if it reflects in the y-axis, that means it's going to flip over. So these things are going to move to the other side. And horizontal shrink means that it's horizontally shrinking, smushing it in closer. So it'll be like really skinny and close to the y-axis, kind of like this. Okay, you can barely see the little squiggle in the middle. It'll be skinnier, closer to the y-axis. Some of these are better to draw your own than looking at the graph because they don't look like much on the graph, just because of the way that the calculator is made, you know, with the pixels. Okay, so this is a cubic graph, right? This is a quartic graph. This is a to the 5th power graph. Okay, so now you know what each of those looks like if you have to draw the sketch on the practice. I'm sorry, on the stations. The rest of these, we're just going to list the transformations, okay? We don't have to draw a graph on every one. Also on the rest of these, I'm not going to give you f of x, okay? I'm just going to give you the g of x. You know that the f of x is the parent function, the one with no numbers in it, okay? Just assume that. But this way we can just save a little time and space. Okay, so we've got negative 2x cubed.
That's it.
That's it. Okay, so you're going to have to tell me this has two transformations. Okay, let's think about it. The negative does something and the 2 does something. We're going to think about what are the two transformations.
Is it reflecting?
Right, is it reflecting? Right, Alvaro says it's reflecting. Do more people think it's reflecting? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right, yes. Anytime there's a negative out front, it's reflecting. X or Y? Which one is it like? X, right? Because it's no parentheses. Good. Okay, so it's reflecting the X. And whole number, no parentheses, is what? Parentheses is horizontal. All right. No parentheses will be vertical. And a fraction is a vertical shrink, right? So a whole number, vertical stretch.